and welcome to this episode of the Branching Out podcast. We are catching up with Phoebe Ganon, our operations graduate here at Ground Control. She's been working in multiple divisions over the last year, so some great insights. Right, let's get started. Right, welcome Phoebe to the Branching Out podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you for having me. It's a very exciting opportunity to get involved in.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Phoebe's been helping us out in the training team this week and getting a good feel for what we do in our team. So Phoebe, let's just introduce you a little bit. Obviously, you've been doing the operations graduate program for nearly a year now. So could you tell us a little bit about what the last year has been for you, what you've been up to?
Yeah, so it's been really, really interesting. I started in September and the program lasts 14 to 15 months, so I'll end in December this year. And essentially, you go around the entire business working in every single division, and you do projects within every division. You go out on site with all the teams. Then you also do some placements with the more supporting functions. So I work with fleet, I've worked with business development, then I've also been out on site with utilities and grounds maintenance and construction. So it's really varied, and you basically get a very unique insight into how every single division in the business runs. And
Great.
yeah, I'm really loving it.
Great. So obviously you've worked on lots of different projects then in the last year. Do any really stand out to you that you've worked on?
I've really enjoyed, in particular so far, construction and utilities, because I think the day-to-day changing of the format of whether it's out on site and you're working on a shutdown utilities or construction, going from the design phase all the way through to practical completion and seeing the whole transition on site has been really exciting. But then also within every division, I've been given kind of individual tasks to do. So lots of different like research projects and things. So it's been really interesting.
Very cool. Yeah, I think obviously there's different areas of the business operate slightly differently. The more project-based utility and construction, you get that quicker, I guess, well, not quicker, but you get that satisfaction, I guess, of the beginning to the end, where like with grounds maintenance, it's a bit, obviously you get the satisfaction of seeing a site cleaned up or maintained, but I guess it's a continuous, right? So we'll be back in another week or two
Yeah, it's
to do some more, if you know what I mean. So
definitely more routine
yeah,
in
exactly.
the likes of
Yeah.
GM and kind of client services, but actually, I think there is still a lot of potential to have things that are varied and much more exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a very, very unique experience so far, and seeing how everyone works differently is very eye-opening.
Have you maybe shared insights from one division to another?
Yeah, so I think that is one of my big tasks at the end of the placement anyway, is to
Yep.
kind of see how we can take things from each division and make others work a bit better. But as a whole, so far, it's kind of depending on the project whether I've been able to kind of suggest ideas throughout.
Yeah. So have you had any like challenges you've been given that were particularly memorable in the last year?
Yeah,
Any
I'd
of
say
you?
I've had quite a few interesting projects. So, for example, when I was working with BD, I had a project for Emma Hindle, which was looking into kind of our competitors in the north in the construction
Yep.
industry. So I think that was really, really exciting for me to actually get to kind of dive in, do my background research, looking at the forums and then also kind of LinkedIn and looking at all the different businesses. So actually
Hmm.
getting to really know the industry, because obviously I have quite limited kind of industry
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
coming out of university. So it was really insightful for me to actually get stuck in and see the ins and out of the construction business. But then also when I was working with Fleet, I had a project looking at kind of our expenditure for the past year, looking at the things that have cost us the most, looking where maybe the few things were a bit surprising.
Yeah.
And actually just to be able to be given that responsibility and kind of make a report and
Yeah.
really get stuck in and actually give some honest feedback and things has been really really quite eye-opening. It's been an interesting challenge to kind of see what I can produce. But yeah, those two
Yeah.
definitely spring to mind.
Oh, that's that's good because you're really you get that value add as well. So you can see how your work is adding value to that division as well then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's nice, especially kind of on a graduate program. I think a lot of companies, you are kind of just a number, but I think here graduates are really valued. And actually, when people really do want your honest opinion and they do really want you to say what you think and see how you can make changes as like a fresh set of eyes, I think that's really exciting for me to be able to be given that opportunity and people actually want to listen. And because obviously I'm learning every single day. That's my job at the moment, is just to learn. So if I can kind of add value throughout every division, that's really great for me.
Oh, that's yeah, I think that's kind of helps you with being motivated as well. Like if you like, because sometimes I think everyone sometimes gets a bit caught up in the day to day. So, kind of taking a step back and looking at what value you are bringing to your projects and um, to what the objectives and goals are of that division, then that's really that's rewarding and keeps you motivated to keep going and keep doing more. Um, I guess what so you almost don't I wouldn't say you have like a typical normally we ask like so what does a normal week look like, but obviously it would be different depending on the division. So how do you kind of tuck into each division? How do you I guess if somebody was going to start at ground control doing the graduate program, like what is that maybe what does a typical maybe month look like for you when you're moving from division to division?
Yeah, so with your operational placements, so that's the likes of grounds maintenance,
Yeah.
construction, utilities, rail, and infrastructure, you tend to have, it's quite varied, obviously, day to day, but you'll tend to do a few days out on site. So you might be shadowing like a construction manager or a contracts manager or a CDM, and you'll go out to site with them and you'll meet the field teams, you'll watch a day's work, you'll carry out the audits on safety culture,
Okay.
and obviously you get to like directly make that relationship with the teams and really learn kind of that management style from them on site. And also, obviously, you attend any client meetings they have. You essentially do just become like a little shadow,
Yeah.
kind of everywhere they go, you go. If you can get invited to it, you attend. But then obviously, you often will also get a project, like I said. So if you do get a few days where you'll be at home a couple of days a week, because obviously normally the operational managers will have a few admin days. So
Yeah.
that's where I'd often be given a project to work on kind of behind the scenes. So I'll just be at home kind of doing my background research. But then when you're in a kind of support function placement, that's when you'll kind of be doing a bit more like admin. So you'll be working from home, emails, Teams meetings, joining all of the Teams meetings that they already have.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, running through spreadsheets and Word documents and kind of that more office-based role. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's super varied, super interesting. And I think it's very well organized. So you'll tend
Yeah.
to do
It's
an
important as
operational
well.
placement split split up by a kind of like support function placement. So you
Yeah.
do get that kind of, you might be on the road for like 6 weeks in a row, but then you know that at the end of that 6 weeks, you'll be at home for 4 weeks and you can kind of start
Yeah.
to calm down
Yeah.
a bit more, catch up on your sleep. But yeah, so it's very varied, but very interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if I had had the opportunity to do something like that straight out of uni, I think it would have been really helpful, just to give you, because you do your studies in uni and that is its own little bubble, its own little world, and then you come out into the real world as it's called, I guess, and trying to figure out where you've learned a lot, but like how do you make that transition into the workplace and trying to find what your interests are out there and apply that. So no, I think it's a really great program for um for you when you're just kind of starting your professional career. you want to call it that. So you like you, I know you said at the end of your program you kind of summarize your experiences and things that have stood out to you. Is there anything that you've already kind of thought in the back of your head that you think would be great for the company, like as a sharing point that these people work this way, these people work that way? Is there anything that has really stood out to you that you think would be good to share?
Yeah, I think just keeping a very open mind, because actually I think at the moment our divisions do work very kind of independently.
Hmm.
And I think there are some really interesting things that go on within each division. For example, within grounds maintenance, they carry out their field team one-to-ones now rather than the road shows, and actually giving the field teams kind of that opportunity to sit down with kind of senior leadership members as well as their like contract manager and give their like honest feedback of how they think the year's been, how they feel supported. And I think that would be super interesting to kind of bring into the other divisions that are much more operational because, you know, we can't run the business without the field teams. They're so
Yeah.
important. Um, so shout out to them.
Yes.
But
Shout out to our field teams. They're great.
but yeah, I think also just keeping an open mind. I know that our technology is, you know, we're developing our technology as we go. IT are working so hard every day.
Yep.
And I think there's some very exciting opportunities on the horizon as the business continues to grow. So I think just, yeah, kind of if you do hear something or you know something that's working well in another division, like don't be afraid to suggest it. Because
Yeah.
actually, if you never had those conversations, you never make that progress. Um, so yeah, not
No, that's
exactly a
great.
big thing, but
No, no,
good
I
insight.
think yeah, no, field team engagement is important. Like we need to be engaging with our field teams and they need to feel comfortable in sharing their feedback with us. And you only do that through developing relationships, whether that is with field teams or with your colleagues. I mean, you've got to, it's always communication's a bugbear for any business, and um, yeah, you said like you said, taking that time and having those kind of one-to-one conversations. That's that's how you build trust and get those bits of information you wouldn't otherwise get out of people. So no, you're right. You're definitely right, and that's a great point. Um, so obviously, I mean, we ask about development. You've already talked a lot about how you are basically constantly learning at the moment. So is there anything, are you doing any other development? Are you doing any other like readings or studies or anything else at the moment?
Yeah, so one of the things I've been kind of looking into independently is developing my mental toughness. I know that
Okay.
might sound so
No,
strange, kind
no,
of
it
just
doesn't.
off the bat, but I attended the National Grid Health and Safety conference a few months ago, and they had a guest speaker called Penny Mallory, who is a former British Rally Championship driver, and she was
Yeah,
the first woman to ever drive in a rally championship. And she basically did a whole speech about developing your mental toughness and kind of the challenges. And there's a few kind of day-to-day things that really build your resilience. And I think for someone like me, kind of going around this program on my own this year, I was quite hesitant at the start to
yeah,
kind of how am I going to really kind of get stuck into this business and how am I going to make those kind of relationships and those friendships. I think it is all about like being resilient and like adaptable to change and actually kind of trusting your gut instinct is probably my key takeaway that actually you do just have to throw yourself in at the deep end. So
yep,
I've kind of been doing quite a bit of reading and kind of just research into kind of different kind of tactics you can do on a daily basis, sorry, to kind of yeah, build up my mental my mental
yeah.
toughness. But it's really interesting topic to kind of just read a few minutes of each day. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, we've looked at that. I mean, obviously, I've looked at that quite a bit in training before. We do have some resources available to anyone that is interested in at least starting to touch on that topic. And yeah, it is important. It's good that you know that at, such an early part in your career is that we do need I know it's very hard because we're a very busy, fast-paced company, but if you can find those 5 minutes to maybe work on something like resilience or, um, you know, uh, like a mental agility, I guess is another way of saying it, that it is important, not, not just for, I guess, the business, if you want to talk about it like that, but also for you personally to help you, because we only work well when we're well rested and well um, minded, and putting some resilience practices into your day can only do you good, if you know what I mean. So no, you're
Yeah.
right on that. Right. So obviously we've been talking for a bit now. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. I know you're quite busy helping us out in training this week, so definitely we appreciate that. We'll accept any help we can get. Um, so I guess let's just leave on maybe some parting of knowledge, because you obviously have gone through a lot of information, a lot of different experiences in the last year. So what would you find is your best piece of advice you've been given?
So I would say I've actually heard this several times before I started working here, but then also
Yeah.
since I've been working for ground control. And the best piece of advice is actually that it's okay to say you don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think I have always been quite, not paranoid, but I get quite stressed out when it comes to kind of giving a presentation. And usually it's not the presentation itself that scares me. It's kind of the, oh no, I've got to answer questions at the end of this. And I
Yeah.
think, especially when you're kind of younger and you're learning, or even at university, you often get told that, you need to come up with an answer, you need to know the answer. But
Yeah.
actually, that's really not the case. And everyone is learning every day.
Yeah.
And, if you're talking to experts or the senior leadership team and someone asks you a question you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know right now. Let me look at that and I can get back to you, rather than kind of waffling and maybe kind
Yeah.
of making yourself look a bit silly. Or I'm always so scared about that. So yeah, I think definitely for me is knowing that it's okay to say you don't know and you are still learning.
Yeah, we can't all expect to be knowledgeable in every aspect of whether it's work or life. So yeah, definitely. That's great. Great piece of advice. Right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. And yeah, I'll hopefully catch up again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Thanks all for listening to another episode of the Branching Out podcast. If you'd like to get involved in the podcast, please reach out to the training department and training at ground-control.co.uk. Until next time.